Hi, this is Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity, and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I'm welcoming my guest today, Stephen Lombardo. Stephen, say hello.
Hi, guys.
We're going to just call you Steve.
There you go.
There you go. All right. So I am the CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, entrepreneur organization member, three-time MLB World Series coach, and Stephen Lombardo is no joke right here, man. I'm super excited to talk about you, the chairman of the Gibsons restaurant group.
Well, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Me too. Let's get into the show. If you're joining us for the first time in the Winners Find a Way, if you have ever faced stiff adversity, you feel like the losses are mounting, you're challenged, and there has been no challenges like this year with COVID and everything else, as we're going to get into, you came to the right place. Whether you were already an entrepreneur, athlete, business leader, or just looking to start your journey today to being elite, this is the perfect podcast for you. So I'm glad you're with us. Steve, I want to talk a little bit about you. Before I do, tell them where they can find you, Steve, online, as far as LinkedIn. Where can we find you if they're looking for you?
Yeah, Stephen Lombardo, Stephen, on LinkedIn. That's actually the only social media I use. So
that's impressive, right? Because I know the Gibson group is everywhere, right? Like,
yes, the restaurants have Instagram, Facebook. We've got presence everywhere. But no, myself, I tend to not use it very often.
Very good. So this is a conversation I've been looking forward to for a while, just because, and I think our audience is too. In the fact that, Steve, I really haven't talked to anybody who's been on the front line of a year of just quiet, like, hey, let's flip a coin, anything goes. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Heads we open, tails we don't. I mean, like, it's so challenged. It's got to be crazy in the restaurant business, and the impact of the rules, your staff. This is going to be interesting. I want a few highlights I jotted down about you as I introduce Steve Lombardo III.
Yep.
Your father is your father the founder of the Gibson group?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. And your grandfather, where'd you grow up at? In Chicago?
Grew up in Park Ridge, just outside of Chicago. My grandfather was, first generation Italian American, and he was a cop for the post office, a postal inspector.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so your son, the second, or your father, the second, or junior, and did they call him junior? Yep. Or is he always the second?
Okay. They don't. He's Big Steve because
Big Steve. All right.
Yeah.
So Big Steve is the founder. He decides, hey, I'm going to open up a restaurant, Dad. Like, I'm taking a risk, right? And man, how this paid off. I mean, I am, it's amazing. I can't get over the stat of 7 independent restaurants in the top 100 in the country. Like, and by the way, 3 in the top 20, right? With the Boathouse, Gibson's Original, like the flagship on Rush. And then one of your newer brands, Italia, like catapults right into this heavy hitter claim. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we know how to do big volume well. Yes. Not sure we know how to do small volume very well.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Cortino, Hugo's Frog Bar. You've got a number. It's incredible, some of the brands, and they're well known. They're well known on my circuit, because in Major League Baseball, I knew about your restaurants before I knew you, right? And you and I go back, I think, about 10, 12 years, right?
10, 12 years, yeah.
Yeah, when we were both entrepreneur organization members in Chicago. Steve owned a wine import business that was significant. Meanwhile, while you're an attorney for one of the biggest law firms in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So you know how to stay busy. Is that what you're saying? You're trying to stay busy?
It was a fun night job.
Fun night job. Yeah. Yeah, so we were both in EO. That's where we first met. And back then, I was regularly in Gibsons for the EO board meeting. So that was awesome. But right. I was regularly in Gibsons since now. Let's go back to the, late 90s, early 2000s when we come into play in Chicago, and like Gibsons was our staple. Like, you got to go out and have a good meal while you're in Chicago. So that's how I knew Gibsons. And in my story this morning,
well, by the way, our staff was very well trained to take care of all the opposing teams and keep offering them free drinks, whatever it took to try and give the home team an advantage.
Yes, I'm sure the White Sox and Cubs, they should be sending you guys all sorts of cool gifts for that, because I do think like those records at home should have been a lot better for Chicago,
Right.
for sure. Yeah, I would laugh because I recall having conversations with staff and team members about how, hey, Chicago, Chicago, and I'll rest when we get to Minnesota or Cleveland, like your next stop on the tour, right? So now here's a fact. You went to Georgetown, played a little ball there, and
Yep.
you went to law school. Where did you go to law school?
Also Georgetown.
Oh, also at Georgetown. Okay, so
Yep.
undergrad and
Double
law
Hoya.
school there. Yep. Okay. And so wow, you've been busy, busy. I love this. While still in college, Steve founded a television production company, East Coast Sports Video Production. You produced a television show
Yeah.
with Bobby Bowden, Peyton Manning. You interviewed Lou Holtz. Tell me about a little bit about that.
So it came out of a class in college. One of the kids I partnered with, he was a video, a big AV geek in the positive sense of that word, and we just figured out we could get access to both the equipment, the studios, all of the editing machines, and I was shocked when we did this college football show that it was so easy to get access to these people. You just said, hey, we've got this show. You'd call it the sports information department, and pretty soon you had an interview. It was like I was shocked at how easy it was to do. The hard part was selling advertising for it, and to be very frank, we didn't make money. Uh,
Yeah,
so
right.
we pulled off a season worth of shows and probably lost a few $1,000. But at the same time, it was a great experience. The network we were on we were on the patchwork of networks that existed around the country that became Fox Sports, right around that time. And so when that happened, we got bounced, but it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, right? It just sounds amazing. And as I'm thinking through that, it just when I keep hearing of like I feel like you're like the original ESPN guy. Like, it was just starting, and you probably could have made a run in a network, right?
Well, how about this? We had as our sort of on-site interviewing reporter, she was going to join us, was Melissa Stark. She got hired by ESPN about 2 weeks after we did our pilot.
Yeah. I remember Melissa Stark well. Like she's had a long career in the business. I mean, she's been great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about here's a fun fact about Steve Lombardo that I love. And most people don't know this about you, that you were the bat boy for the longest game in Major League Baseball history. Tell us a little bit
Correct.
about that.
So it was one of those honorary positions where, you win a raffle at some event or whatnot, and you get to go for one game, right? And you just sit on the side, and there's a real bat boy who does everything. It was the White Sox versus the Brewers in 1984, and it was Tom Seaver was pitching for the White Sox that year. The game went, I think, like 22 innings, but it went from a time standpoint, went 7+ hours. It went to the major league curfew, and then started over the next day. And I didn't get to go back the next day, but that day, that evening, it got so late and everyone was so tired. What was an honorary position became a real position because they were just like, just go out there. And so I was out there on the field as a 9-year-old running around, and it was fun, a lot of fun. Trent, I'm not getting you. Trent, you there? Hello. Looks like we lost Trent from the Zoom. Let's see if we can get him back on here. Hold on a sec. Looks like his network is down. He's trying to get back on right now. So give it a minute. Let's see, while people are waiting, let's see if I've got any good stories to tell about Chicago and sports, and the restaurants. One of our favorite, one of the reasons Gibsons really took off back when we first opened was the Bulls used to come in after their home games during their championship run. The restaurant opened in '89, and the Bulls run went from '91 through '98. And they got it in their head as almost superstition that they would come into the restaurant after each home game. And so they would have tables all around the restaurant. They would come in around 11, 12 p.m. Rodman always had the back giant table with a lot of celebrities. You'd have RuPaul and Eddie Vedder and Billy Corgan at a table. Michael Jordan had the front corner table that was right on the street that was visible from the corner windows. Everyone could see him, but nobody could touch him. Scottie Pippen would have a table, and Ron Harper would have a table. It was great. The players and the fans would just come after the game. We'd end up having the restaurant open till 2 a.m. because they would come after the game, so they wouldn't even start till 11 o'clock. All good stuff. Let's see, as Trent says here, his network, he's still working on it. But one of the reasons why Gibsons really became well known as a place to go. I like to think that the service that we provided, the food that we provided was part of it, but getting that notoriety from Phil Jackson and the rest of the players really helped. Trent and I go back, he was a ball player. I was a baseball player. So we connected almost immediately. I probably wasn't as good as he was, though I did play on a Division I team. I rarely, if ever, saw the field. It was still a great experience, the discipline of being a baseball player at the collegiate level, learning how to manage your time, spend, hours on and off the field with the team while you're still balancing a pretty hefty scholastic load. It was a great experience. But Trent and I, when we first met each other, we found out we were both baseball guys. We connected right off the bat. All right, let me just text him here. We'll see. I know he's working on it. To get into a little bit about what we did this last year in terms of adversity, This was probably the single most difficult year that's our company has ever faced. I came into the business about 6 years ago. The brand had been established. My father and his partner, who's now since retired, Hugo, and the team that they built had created a great brand, and I came in to help take it on to the next level, to grow it, and then we got this we got hit with a ton of bricks. Trent, John, there he is. You there? Seems to be frozen. He's connecting to the audio. You there, Trent? Are you on? Can you hear me? You're on mute. You're muted. There you go.
Back. Wow. Sorry about that, man. I had some serious streaming issues there.
You're still a little choppy.
Guys, you were telling the story. Yep, you were telling the story.
I was just talking about this last year and how the adversity of this last year, just leading up to it, was the single most difficult year we've ever faced. I think this is just getting right into the meat of the podcast, right? So,
yes.
March 12th or March 11th is when the NBA shut down. March 13th is a Friday the 13th. And I spent the day going around to our different restaurants and probably spoke to 3 or 4 of them. We have pre-shift. Pre-shift is the meeting with all the staff before, the dinner service or the lunch service. And usually it's to just kind of refresh on a few key, leadership points or service points. And then, it's a rah-rah, go out and kick some ass and, show them, show the customer what we're about. I go to a bunch of them and I tell them, I said, listen, we're in a good position. We're a financially strong company. Don't worry. We're going to be okay. We haven't been shut down yet, by the way. At this point, right. I don't even think that's a possibility. It doesn't even cross my mind to talk about a failure of imagination. I did not. This is 3 days before it happened.
Yeah.
I didn't think shutting us down was even legal to do. Okay.
Yep.
And so I'm reassuring them that we're going to be open. Maybe we'll be able to reduce capacity. Maybe this or that. Maybe demand's going to be down. Customers won't be coming in, but we'll be okay. Fast forward to Sunday, I'm with a group of, there's a Chicago or in Illinois, excuse me, the Illinois Restaurant Association is a lobbying group, an industry group association. And, I'm part of the executive committee there. And there's, maybe 4 or 5 of us who are given an audience with a telephone, conference call with the governor on that Sunday. And we're making the case on why we're a critical industry, why it's, there's people who can't feed themselves. They have to use restaurants. We need to stay open, yada, yada, yada. And we get on the phone and we don't get even a chance to speak. I'm shutting you guys down. I'm giving you till Tuesday, which is St. Patrick's Day. I'm giving you till Tuesday, and that to deplete your inventory and whatnot, and then you can carry out only. And Illinois was the first state to shut down. So, the first thing I did was call my wife. I told my wife, I said, you might want to go to the grocery store. He's announcing this in an hour.
Yeah, right.
There's going to be a run on groceries, right?
Yeah, right.
Probably toilet paper too. And so, and then had to tell our people, we recorded an announcement to the company because of COVID, because we're so widespread. We had 2,200 employees going into this, and explained to them, yes, we're going to have to lay people off. We laid off like 90% of our people. Mm-hmm. Hardest conversation I ever had to have, even though it was recorded, like this, like what we're doing now. Yeah. And, afterwards I was just depleted. I mean, it was like I had gone 15 rounds with the champ and just gotten my ass kicked in. I just can't describe how awful that was. We paid our people for 2 weeks, you know, and, you know, I had already gotten some advanced knowledge about the payroll protection program. Being a lawyer, you know, I grabbed the draft legislation. I was reviewing it, reading it, see what applied to us, how much we could get. I started telling my bankers about the program. And in fact, the banker, my relationship guys had no idea about it and started telling them about it. You got to get involved in this. This is what's going to happen. So Wintrust was our primary banker, Wintrust and Fifth Third, but Wintrust ended up creating a whole committee of people and delved into it. And they became one of the largest PPP lenders in the country because of that. They did a phenomenal job. Fifth Third did as well. But you know, when the time came to apply, I was at the front of the line. And it was one of those where I did have reservations or doubts about taking government money. It's really against my ethos, but I came to the conclusion that the government shut us down, and I had 2,200 people whose livelihoods, I mean, not livelihoods, their families, their rent checks, their food bills were dependent on this. So when it did come time to apply, I was at the front of the line. I left nothing to chance. They opened up the portal. I had my stuff in like, you know, do you remember trying to get concert tickets as a kid where you hit the phone and you know, hang up, redial, you know, pick up again, you know, wait, pick up, redial, and then wait for the busy signal and do it again and wait. Well, so, you know, 20 minutes before the portal opened, I did that with the web, just refreshing my page.
Yeah.
You know, it opened 7 minutes before the time. I got all my stuff in before, you know, so we got money. We brought everyone back, except we couldn't get everyone back. This is funny.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
No, I think that's a big deal. Like, you know, as you talk about getting ahead of it and like the law background coming into seeing it, like seeing what's possible and what's available. I always like to tell leaders, you know, and a lot of people don't get this. When you own a business, you make decisions for every person because this is their livelihood, right? This is what supports their family. This is what puts food on the table. So and I was going to ask you, how many employees? So you talk about 2,200. That's a decision for 8,800 folks, right?
Yeah.
Kids that got, you know, you got tuition payments, you got, you know, the school, you got grades, you got clothes, you got everything comes into this, and gas for the car to get them where they need to be, and a bus pass and everything else. I mean, everything is centered around our occupation and what it is. So all of a sudden, that decision's huge. So you were amped up, ready to provide for your people. You know, I love that. The concert ticket. I totally appreciate that because I can totally remember that moment. I could just see you on your computer refreshing. So tell me about Big Steve. I mean, he's been through some things, right? Like when we talk about leaders.
So here's the other, So here's the other interesting thing. So he's at the time, he's 77 years old. He has not retired, still hasn't retired. You know, he's the driving force behind this company, created it 30 something years ago, has been in the restaurant and bar business for over 50 years, knows the restaurant hospitality business as good as anybody in the United States. I would put him in one of the top 5 operators, up there with like the Danny Myers of the world. I mean, he knows his business. He knows what customers want. So, another funny aside. So March 13th, I give all these pre-shifts. I'm at all the restaurants. I don't get home till late. I get home at like 11:30. And I text a close friend of mine who I grew up with, who at that point in time is the Secretary of the Army of the United States. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So I text him and I say, I had a hell of a day. I can't imagine how yours must have been.
Right.
1,000 times worse. So you want to talk a multiple of 4? He has 3 million people underneath him.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Affecting 12 million, right?
Yes.
And that's the reality of the deal.
And affecting literally almost every corner of the globe, right?
Yeah,
so,
right. Much
I ask him, he says, I text him, you know, how was your day? Mine was brutal. I can't imagine how yours was. He goes, I hope your parents are up at their vacation home. And I just picked up the phone and called him. I said, okay, because I had been reading a little bit about COVID.
Yeah,
I tried to find as much, and I was getting some of the stuff out of China. I know you can't trust the stuff out of China necessarily, but okay, it's affecting older people. It doesn't seem to be affecting younger people. It doesn't seem to be affecting women.
Yeah, the early words. Yeah,
pregnant
the
women,
early
pregnant
stuff.
women, right?
Yeah.
So he goes through. I've had my guys, all my scientists and doctors in the Army have been working on this for the last 6 weeks. So kind of mid-January or late January. And he's like, if you're over 80 years old, it's a death sentence. He's like, you got to get your father up to the lake house now. And he said, tell him again, we've been trying to convince him to go for the last week. We're like, it seems a little, and he's like, nah, whatever. He goes, tell your father, if he doesn't go, I'm sending an armed escort. Now, would he have really done that? And could he have done that?
Right.
He wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But it was the threat that got my father to do. So I texted my father that night, and I texted all my family members. Like, this is what's going on. You and mom need to leave like tomorrow morning. They lived in the city. I live in the north suburbs. So they have to drive by my house. I said, we'll buy a bunch of groceries, pack it up for you. You'll just come in, we'll load the car, and you go up there. So he's out of pocket during this he's there for 5 months, 4 months, 5 months. So he is totally absent, and he's been the guy. And he's said, hey, you're here to replace me, but when I'm ready, and he's been letting go slowly over the years. And he's been letting go of certain, responsibilities and things. But at the same time, he is just one of those, in a family business, he's one of those guys. He's not interested in retiring. That's not who he is, right?
And you got other family members involved, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, so now whether you liked it or not, this is now the fire drill to say, hey, succession is what we planned. Now it's in order whether we like it or not, right? Like it's happening, and now we got to go. And I think what other people may not know too is that this is 4 days before St. Patrick's Day, which in Chicago is a very different deal. Like St. Patrick's Day in Chicago is like everywhere else on steroids St. Patrick's Day, because it is, Green River, and it is, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions, sweep into downtown Chicago anytime around that holiday, both before the weekend and the weekend after, right? Like this is almost a week-long event.
Right. So that's and that's what the governor cited as the reason for the shutdown, was that everyone went out and partied like rock stars on the 15th, that Saturday or 14th. And he didn't trust the people to behave accordingly. So
amazing. I probably wouldn't either.
Yeah. So take that for what it's worth. So during this whole, not every, obviously it lasted a year and a half, but for the first 4 or 5 months, he was totally gone. Now available by phone, but it's just not the same thing. So so we get PPP money.
Yeah.
Okay? We try and bring everyone back. We get 90% of them. 10% have just disappeared. We were closed, or we didn't have them on the payroll for 2 weeks, and we lost 10% of our people because they went home to Mexico, or they went to go to their parents' house in Ohio or California.
Yeah.
Or take your pick, and we couldn't get them back.
Take care of their loved ones. They're in a panic too, right? Like, I don't know, but I got to get my parents to safety or whatever it is.
Exactly right. Right. So, we also told the people in our organization who are, of a certain age or older, just told them, don't come in.
Yeah.
and some of them took it the wrong way initially. And they're like, I had one of our managers who has worked with my father for decades. And he said, you don't want me here anymore. I said, I want you here. I want you alive more.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
There's legal risk in doing that. There was legal risk in doing that. And I didn't care. I did not care. I had another friend of mine who was a CEO who had one of his employees, 2 of his employees who died of COVID relatively early, in that March, April timeframe. And I was like, I'm not letting that happen.
Yeah, not on my watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that's another thing with Steve's network, right? The Young Presidents Organization is a deep one and long one, and all and then that's a beautiful thing. Tell me about as you're going through this fire drill, right?
Yeah.
Of facing this. So how does the team react without Big Steve? And how does Big Steve react being like as a man who's always on the go and do it. Like he's a get stuff done guy, right? Like he's got his
Yep.
doctorate in GSD, right? And all of a
Yep.
sudden he's at the cabin. Like I know he could do 3 days at the cabin, but like 4 months. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, he
how's he
went,
doing?
he was going insane. He
Yeah,
went
right.
insane.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we're on the phone quite a bit during the period, but he's not a technology guy, so he
Hmm.
can't participate in Zooms. I mean, so during this period we are able to do carry out. So we've got people in the restaurants.
Yeah.
We're not allowing customers in the restaurants other than just to pick up food.
Yep.
We're paying people even though they're not working. So
Yeah.
we did a vocational survey and found out what skills people had, and if they had something that was at all useful, we tried to figure out, can you paint? Can you fix
Yeah.
furniture? Can you do, like, the restaurants are closed. There's all sorts of stuff you want to do that you never have time to do, and we tried to do a lot of those things. I think we
Yes.
did a decent job of it. I feel like from an administrative standpoint, it took us a little longer to get going and than I would have liked, but we still got a lot of things done and, prettied up the restaurant some, fixed some things, did some projects that had, needed to be doing from a technology side or learning side. Yeah, he's going crazy and he just needs updates. I mean, that's all he can do is I'm telling him what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm walking around, I'm making a point, I think I told you this the other day, I was on a panel with about 5 other CEOs, and they were talking about when to bring people back to work. And I said, guys, after they had 10 minutes of hemming and hawing and maybe July 4th, maybe Labor Day, I just said, guys, enough. And there was a manufacturing CEO there too. And I said, we've been back since the very beginning. I said, my people have been in front of customers since the very beginning,
Yeah.
1,000 people a day. So, enough, like, stop. I got tired.
You can do it. Like you can do it, and you
Exactly.
can do it with safety, and you can do it
Exactly.
right. There's a right way to do it, and you've kind of got the formula and proved it could work.
Yeah. So I did a few days working from home early on, and my wife got real sick of me real fast. And I love her. But no, I made it a point. That's just a joke. The reality is if my people are going to be in the restaurant, I better be there.
Yeah,
So I
that's
made
right.
sure I was going around to every place, just making sure that they saw me there with them and
Yeah.
helping out a little bit here and there. But I can't do what these guys do. So I mean, I can help a little bit, but the reality is it's more for morale, right?
So let's talk about this real quick. Couple of the lessons coming out of this. I mean, you're down,
Yeah.
but upskill immediately. Like, hey, we've always talked about doing stuff on a rainy day. I guess it's raining, and when do we ever have this chance where we don't have anyone in this main part of the restaurant where we would have to shut down for 2 weeks to do this and lose all that revenue? Now's our chance. So boom, we jump on that.
Yep.
And we jump on, hey, how do I put my skills and my assets to work? Because I've got a bunch of people who are great in the restaurant business, but they're great at other stuff too. And they can help and they're willing because you've built that culture of team from the word go with the Gibson group, and they know like they're a part of the Gibson family, and they know like, hey, how do you keep the family moving, right?
Yep. Some of them needed to work, right? I mean,
Yes,
certain people just needed to be out there and being productive and feel like they were doing something,
that's
right?
right.
Sitting at home, we all know about the mental health issues that this whole situation's created. So
Yes,
there was some of that. And there were people who didn't want to work, right? There's people who
yeah.
wanted to stay at home,
Fear, scared. Yeah, I'm worried about it.
scared
Yeah,
for 100 reasons. The kids were home, right? The kids were
yeah,
not in school. So there was a lot of that. But so, wanted to make sure that, we were able to, the PPP though was only for another 8 weeks at that point in time. So we
yes,
used it for what it was supposed to be used for, and then it ran out, and then we had to lay everybody off again.
hmm
Uh, by that time, it was
Steve, I think I lost you
that
for
there
a
was going to
second.
be some sort of possible reopening. So, we didn't have to let go everybody like we did before, but it was, it was rough. We made sure that we paid people's, even if they were laid off and we weren't paying the salary, we were paying for their health care, right?
And you're doing
Coverage.
creative outdoor dining, right?
Right. Well, we're not there yet. We're not even there
Oh,
yet.
sorry, we're not even there yet.
We're
Yeah.
not even there yet. So Chicago's still closed. And so, we're just trying to make sure we're taking care of our people. Then we finally get open and we get to do outdoor dining. And outdoor dining is, they have all these rules that they've changed multiple times over the course of the last 12 months. You can be outside. Okay, that's great. We annexed some space on Rush Street. We were able to get the street closed. We were able to, in one of our locations in the suburbs, we got a bunch of space out in a lot that was next to the building. And we created some stuff where there were no seats before, right? And then they had these rules where if you were inside, but within 8 feet of an open window, that counted as outside, or you're on a roof deck, an enclosed roof deck with the roof open, that counted as outside. So we got to be able to do some stuff. And Chicago, I mean, talk about better being lucky than good. We had probably 3 things going into this that we got, well, 2 things going in and one just happenstance that we got lucky. We had set up our third-party delivery DoorDash, in November, December before COVID hit. So that infrastructure was there, thank God.
Yes.
And we had worked out most of the kinks by that point. The second thing is we have, and this is intentional, but we have very little debt. We had a pretty strong cash reserves. My father's always wanted to save cash for that 100-year storm. The 100-year storm hit, right?
Yeah, right.
And then where we were also very fortunate is last summer, for whatever reason, happens to be the best summer for outside dining in the history of, probably my father being in the business. Every day is beautiful. There's no rain. It's terrible for the plants, but it's great for outdoor dining. And it stays, it not only lasts, it lasts till like the first week of November. That's unheard of in Chicago. So we got 5 months of solid, or 4.5, 5 months of solid weather. And we actually made money at some of the restaurants during that time, even though we weren't we lost money at some of the restaurants, and we lost our shirts the 3 months, of March, April, May. But that was great. And then November came, and just coinciding with the weather, the city shut us down again because they had expanded some indoor access. They shut us down again. So November, December, January, we hemorrhaged money, and we had to let people go again. And it was just, it was a yo-yo. It was tough. The sad thing is by the 4th round of layoffs, it's not as tough. And that's a sad thing, right? Because it's no different. You're still dealing with people's lives, but you've done it 4 or 5 times in a 12-month period, and it just becomes just another day, unfortunately.
Well, and the challenge is that there's probably solace. I find solace. I don't want to speak out of school. There's some solace in the fact I'm not even making this decision for you, right? Like someone else is making this decision, because if I had my druthers, there's no way I'm letting you go and shutting you down. But now, under no control of my own, they're shutting us down, and I have no options. I am out of options.
That's exactly right. It was, and the uncertainty of it, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we wouldn't have survived without the PPP. There's no chance. But if we knew that we were going to be where we are today, I feel like maybe we could have done a little more. But the uncertainty was, I say that, and that being said, I wanted to also say that, in addition to paying for people's health coverage, in addition to providing them meals that they could take home for them and their families, we did a lot. We created a relief fund for the employees. We did all sorts of stuff to help take care of them. But at some point it was, there's got to be a business for them to come back to.
Yeah.
Right? that's the reality, because if not, then now it's, instead of, 50% of those 2,200 people are out of work, it's 100% of those 22 people are out of work.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, it's absolutely tough. I mean, and the roller coaster of it, where it just feels like it's, here we go, we're okay. No, here, let's do, woo. Like, wait,
Yeah.
no, I didn't see that hill, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's so there's uncertainty all the time. So navigating to it. Let's talk about a couple of your big lessons after navigating through this up and down world for, the better of 14 months, right? For sure.
Yeah. So a lot of lessons, and we've done some internal debriefings on it, and really spent a lot of time thinking about it. I mean, one is, thank God we had the cash reserves and not so much debt.
Yeah.
I do think we worked out deals with vendors, we worked out deals with landlords, but we also tried to be fair. We weren't trying to take advantage of the situation in any way, shape, or form. We wanted to be fair to our landlords, and when things did come back, there was a situation. We have a restaurant in the suburbs, Hugo's Frog Bar in Naperville, which the landlord gave us a ton of extra outdoor space, and we were negotiating for rent concessions. And all of a sudden, I see the numbers in the first month, and we're like almost at the level we were a year before. And I called the landlord and said, listen, I'm stopping the negotiation. We're not going to ask for anything right now. I may ask you for something later when the winter comes. I don't know yet. But I want to be totally transparent and fair, which is, we're doing okay right now there. I don't need help. And I don't want, and they said, wow, like you're the only tenant that's actually done that.
Right.
And it's your relationship with your landlord, even if it's an institution, is a long-term relationship. Like, you're with them for decades. So, that goes a long way.
I think people forget the win-win-win of business, right? Like, our customers have to win. We have to provide them, the service, the product, and you guys do that better than anybody. And then, of course, we got to win. Like, we got to make money. We got to be sustainable. We have to take care of our people. But, we also have all these vendors and things that are all, if they don't win, then we have to create new product, new real estate, new circles of distribution. I mean, like, you could change all sorts of things with that, and everyone's thinking like, oh man, I'm taking this person to the cleaners. We're cleaning up and we're saving all sorts of money because I made this sweetheart deal, and then I shut them down in 3 months because I made this sweetheart deal. Now all of a sudden, I just broke my own back with a bad distribution cycle because I got to go source it somewhere else, and maybe I can't source what I need because I went for the jugular on a deal, right, and all sided to me. We don't all win. Something's going to give, right?
What we did with our meat vendors, the steaks, we ended up, they got stuck with a ton of product. We ended up selling those steaks to individual consumers, uncooked, allowed them to take them home to put them on the grill.
Yeah.
For, essentially cost. Maybe a little more than cost, but we just, over a couple of weekends, we just bombarded, through social media and whatever. And people, there was one guy I know who, private equity guy, he put a group together and they bought like 10,000 steaks and threw them in their freezer.
Yeah.
And
they probably brought the steaks and the freezers, actually. Like, hey, listen, if we're going to go get it, let's just go put our group together. I got a deal over here. A guy who's willing to sell me 10 freezers. I've already got the storage facility. Let's just get some steaks. And when we want to go to the cabin, we're going to go to this. Hey, it's nice to go to Gibsons, but we can always do our own.
Oh, we were selling literally the highest grade of meat you could sell at prices that were like below grocery store level.
Right.
For inferior product. And that was to help our vendors. That's it, right? They were stuck. So
So again, creating another win-win-win, right? Like, hey, clients are winning. They're like, hey, I can't go and experience what I talked about this morning, which is the Gibsons experience as you go and the fellowship. Like, carry out's different, right? It was, hey, we're grabbing great quality food, but we're going home and we're going to lose this whole side of it that we always enjoy. And
our chef did a bunch of videos on how to cook a steak on the grill.
Everyone on Zoom. Did you guys have Zooms like going?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
we did a
I
bunch of
love it.
those.
That's so cool. So, the pivots are just left and right, and great ideas are coming from anywhere, I assume. Tell me about some of the team members that are just bringing stuff and they're like, "Hey, that's awesome."
I told them, listen, if you have an idea, try it out. I mean, as long as it's not a huge investment of money, right? Because that's in short supply.
Yeah,
But if as long as it's not a huge investment of money, give it a shot. And tell me about it afterwards. I don't even like time is so of the essence here. I mean, we were doing leadership meetings daily. The teams at the restaurants are in there daily, and they're trying to just brainstorm and come up with stuff. To me, it was, I don't care. Try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else. Like don't let an approval process or or I guess the other thing we told them, there were two guidelines. One is as long as it doesn't cost a lot of investment. The other is as long as it's brand consistent, it doesn't.
that's right. Yeah.
So, but yeah,
You're not starting a farmer's market on the corner with shucking corn, right?
we
Like,
almost did. Wait, we almost did.
Because you guys got good veggies, right? Like,
We were like,
I mean,
we looked at doing a grocery, competing with the grocery stores.
yeah.
We decided no, not worth it. But
Yeah, you have a high quality, a significant amount of volume, obviously. If you have 2,200 people serving food, right? Like, I mean, to make this all happen. But you're right. It's that'd be a pretty big step. So I mean, I think that like when you think about those times, um, what do you think?
I want to finish the question. There was what other lessons we weren't learned. Um, I will say that in times of stress and adversity, people's true characters come out
Mm-hmm,
for good and for bad.
mm-hmm,
We found out pretty quickly who was on the team and who wasn't.
mm-hmm.
Most of the people were on the team.
That's
There
right.
were some people very clearly indicated they weren't.
Mhm.
That's one of those you don't get an opportunity like that very often, right?
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big lesson learned. You know, I guess that was one of the bigger ones. We talked about the cash, we talked about the no debt. I guess the other thing is people are human beings are social animals. I mean,
Yeah.
they need that community. And I think we've all sort of learned this through this process, but we are a hub, right? We're one of those hubs for people to come and meet and congregate. And we're seeing it now because the demand is through the roof at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have enough people to service the volume that the customer wants, right? So it's, we're social animals. We need each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if anyone heard that, there's an opportunity for you in the Gibsons group if you're looking for something like so.
Yeah, right.
The other thing I'm hearing that I think a real lesson is that through this, you can't over communicate in a crisis, right? Like
Oh,
your
for sure.
leadership every day, like let's get the meeting together. Everyone get your restaurant, talk about what you're doing for the day. These are things we can accomplish. And I love the idea. And I'm just envisioning over Hugo's Frog Bar as we're talking about, hey, these three, we're going to do this to the booze today inside. So we're going to have this project going. We're running this special on takeout and we want to market that. So let's talk about marketing ideas. And then we're also doing this in production. And then we're also doing this on educating people on how to do crab legs, right? Like, so there are 4 significant events that have to happen today. And really it's all in, like we all got to do it. And it's not our usual, hey, I've got table 3 through 9 and you got, like our intent is on different things, but it hasn't changed on intensity. Is that fair?
Yeah. I will say that, and we went through this, one of our restaurants is at Disney World in Florida, and we saw this same thing occur when a hurricane hit.
Yeah.
And it's one of the great opportunities in a crisis is it can really band people together, right? That's that.
Yes.
You talk about the military and the band of brothers and people going through adversity together and how it bonds people.
Yes.
Absolutely did with our teams. And it can go one of 2 ways, right? It can tear people apart too.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
if you manage it well, you see people taking care of each other. Those bonds become really close. And then you're not just doing it for the business or for the paycheck. You're doing it for the guy who's next to you, or the girl who's on this side of you, because she needs help and you're helping her because that bond is there. So
yeah. I tell you, and I think there's so much of that. And for people who haven't gone through, big performances in theater, or, the opening day on Broadway, or, been with a championship team. I mean, I look at that and some of the championship teams I was involved in. I was speaking in the Michigan group, and one of the state championship teams I was on 35 years ago. Like, I look at one of my team members came to this talk I was doing, and I hadn't probably seen him in 20 years, and it was like there is a bond there of the things we had to go through to get that title, and you're high school kids and you're developing this relationship together, and it's something unique. And if someone doesn't go through things like this, I don't know if they always get a chance to experience that.
So that goes to something I read not long ago, and just like in the last few months, and I love this saying so much, and that is, adversity is a gift. Right? We're better off today because of what we've gone through in the last 18 months. The team is better off. They're better managers. The bonds between them are greater. There's a belief in each other. Everything that we're doing, we've gotten better operationally. Like we had to. There was fat there that had to be trimmed, and there was more than fat. We trimmed blood, bone, muscle. We did all that. But at this point, we're operating better than we did before. Now, I do think as we ramp back up and we're hiring, there's new people, right? And they have to they have to learn our culture. They have to learn our system. And so there's going to be some growing pains with that. But the team that came through this is, I can't say enough of what a great team they are, and would not be what they are today without having gone through that.
Yeah, I think for anyone who's ever gone to in business, like a restructuring, a bankruptcy kind of thing. I mean, just this country from 9/11, from this country from the '09. I know you and I had a deep conversation in 12 about how leaner we were as a country from operationally after '08, really being thick on, heavy on payroll, going, wow, our payroll's gone way up. Why haven't our production gone way up? Have we not done the training? Have we gotten lazy? Have we instilled that in our team members? Like, as a country, I felt like we just got leaner across the board, going, productivity has to still rule, because everyone can't just get paid. Like really the economics of it throw everything off kilter, because it doesn't rise up. You can't have no productivity and have tons of employees and tons of people employed, and then all of a sudden we get this unemployment deal, and all of a sudden we got to level this out. So it always changes. So another structure. So that's why I when I think about Big Steve, and I think about anyone in their 70s who's owned a company. Our company in transitions, we work with a lot of folks that are selling off their company. And I mean, this last 20 years, 21 years has been a pretty wild ride in the United States of challenges. And I mean, the only of war, of 9/11, of 2009 crash, of political upheaval, of now this with a pandemic and the challenge of that. Like, it's been, I mean, I think, like you said, is if adversity is a gift, man, have we got the gift, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of gifts.
It's the when you talk about people who've been through this and have survived this successfully, and I'm thinking of my management teams and the staff. You solve this gigantic problem. Now all these little problems become so much easier to handle. Right?
Yeah.
Their leadership and ability to deal with issues, uncertainty, whatever it is, they've grown so much during that. Right?
Yes.
But getting back to my father, I mean, so he starts coming back, about end of the summer last year. And I will tell you, so he is not one for compliments, certainly with his children. And certainly not with me anyway, and my brother, maybe my sister's a little more, but he just says, wow, I don't think, he said he didn't think he could have done it, had he been there. And I just looked at him and I said, well, failure wasn't an option. Like that's, straight from Apollo 13, like that just was never on the table. We were going to figure something out. And going back to like the PPP applications, and I tried to describe this to, some of the people who were assisting me with it. I'm like, I want every possible scenario accounted for, because we were seeing it, there was a generic application, but we were seeing the application for the first time in its form, online when we opened up that portal. I didn't know how the information was going to have to go in there. I wanted it 20 different ways. I wanted to make sure I had one computer that was plugged in. I had another computer that's plugged in. I made sure the internet was working, and I had 2 other people at other locations backing this up in case it didn't work. And it was, there's no excuse. There can't not be an excuse why we don't get this done. My father used to say something when I was younger, when I would say I couldn't do something or I can't. And he'd go, what if you were going to be, you could get $1 million, to accomplish that? Would you figure out a way? And most often, more often than not, I'd say, of course. And he'd go,
right? Yeah.
And then he'd go, well, figure it out then,
right.
A great lesson, and he'd even do something absurd. He'd go, what if I told you, you need to, figure out how to fly and, learn how to fly? I go, well, that's impossible. Birds fly, people. And so if there's $1 million, you take $50,000, go to flight school, figure out how to become a pilot. And you'd net $950,000. I go, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's so good. So when you talk about, so there's a major upskilling going on, because there's a whole new perspective on, we have one unhappy customer and how I might deal with that, to, hey, we may have to close the restaurant down for 6 months, right? Like, the perspective is I'm going to go make that customer happy, and I can do that. Like I can do that for us right now. What do you think the superpower that separates you from others, Steve? When you talk about catapulting to the 1%, like, this is not for the faint at heart. I love what you just said was, winners find a way, right? Like,
exactly
failure
right.
is not an option. Like, hey, winners find a way. There is a way to do this, and I want it to be at the least risk possible, but we need to find a way around, over, through. There is a way to get there.
Yeah, we've never closed a restaurant. Okay. For a group our size, I don't know if there's many people that can say that. And it's some of it's just simple hard-headedness, stubbornness. Like, we'll figure out a way. You're going to do it, and sometimes it's even throwing money after the issue, right? Throwing some money at the problem, but and therefore causing more investment than you otherwise had projected. But we're going to figure it out. And I'm not sure if the question was directed at me or the company, but the lessons I learned growing up were, you get your ass kicked, you get back up. That's it. You got to face the fears or this. It's just something you have to do if you want to. I don't even want to be successful, just to be a human, an adult human being. Like that. Those are the lessons that were given to me. And so, even though I've had failures in my life, plenty of them, try to learn from them, of course. The failure is the best learning you can do. Although then, isn't it Buffett who said other people's failures are the best learning?
Yeah, right.
So,
well, let's quickly talk about, would you do anything differently, knowing what you know now? Rear view mirror, like, let's not, like, go deep into that rear view mirror, but, like, if you just take a quick glance, anything that you know now that you might have done differently today, if this were to come again?
I don't know if there would be. I really don't. I feel like we did all we could. I feel that, one of the, could we have been more involved? I mean, we were very active in terms of conversations, whether directly or indirectly through the industry associations,
Yeah.
with the governor's office, the mayor's office, trying to push to get reopened and reopened sooner and show how we could do it safely and all these sorts of things. You know, I we live in a blue state, the restaurant that was open first was in a red state.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more politically active we could have been to help drive that. I mean, I don't think anything we said or did was going to change the outcomes here in Chicago and Illinois. But I don't know, that's the only thing that kind of comes to mind.
What's the one belief, value, action that you took, that you'd absolutely, the one thing you must do when facing adversity right now? Like what's the one kind of stable foundation that maybe puts things back on level ground immediately for you, that you'd recommend if someone else has to go through something? What's one of those things like, hey, you got to get this?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I do think communication is a key piece of it, because with 2,200 people, you've got 2,200 ideas. Like, listen to your people. They will have ideas that will help. Plenty of the ideas that won't work. But that's one of them. The other was just not feeling, there was a little bit, maybe at the very beginning, like, how is this happening? Why is this happening? I wouldn't even call it feeling sorry for ourselves. It's just sort of like, you're sort of hit with shock. But then it's just rolling up your sleeves and getting down to it, right? There's no choice, right? That's what you have to do. Just get into it.
Do you feel like, is everybody at Gibson, you have different brands, you have different styles, Cortino and Hugo Frog Bar and Gibson's Group, obviously, and then the Boathouse, and you got a casino operation. You also run a couple things for a couple of groups too. But is there a balancing act of multiple restaurant teams? Are they all under a similar style under the Gibson Group? They know that they're in the family and this is how the family runs it? Or
Yeah.
there's a little bit more? Tell me about that a little bit.
There's some unique, there's some unique aspects to each concept.
Yeah.
But the reality is we have core values: hospitality, quality, value, family. Those are our core values. And the underlying mission statement is every customer must leave happy. And we don't always succeed at that, right? But that's at every location. Sure. Doesn't matter. Right. And even if they leave unhappy, it's figuring out a way to make them happy after the fact, which we don't like to do, but we will do it, right? That's what we have to do. It's not a choice, right? Somebody writes a bad review, we call them up. We try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can appreciate that, because my family, my friends, my colleagues, my peers, we always leave very happy when we come to your place, man. So let's talk about, you've had a lot of success. Astronomical. As you just said, besides the top 7 of 100, right? Never closed a restaurant. Everyone says this is one of the toughest businesses to be in. But what is the best battle that Steve Lombardo III has conquered in your lifetime?
Oh boy. In my lifetime, I got to go back before the business, but
okay.
I had my first year of law school. So I am I failed at 3 things that year. I'd gone through my life with pretty much no real failures. I was pretty successful pretty much at anything I had done. I had go to law school. I have this college football television show during this year too. I'm doing that. And I'm also just, for shits and giggles. I studied accounting, so I've got to sit for the CPA exam. So I do all three, and I flunked the CPA exam. We have a one successful season of the show, but we lost a little bit of money, and we don't make it on the second season. And during this time, I'm just, I'm an A student everywhere I'm at, and I get my first report card back from Georgetown Law, and it's like I just missed the boat. And it wasn't a lack of studying, it wasn't a lack of knowledge, it was a lack of understanding because, and I'll digress for 1 second, but in law school, they don't want a right answer. They want you to think of all the possible scenarios and alternatives and sort of account for each. Instead of a typical question on a test was, here's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. And I just bombed it. And I figured it out after the fact. I ended up passing the CPA exam the second time around. I figured out the law school game and did well, but it was one of those very humbling experiences, and one of those where, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
The trifecta.
Had to take a step back at that point. I mean, down but not out. So you decide, you prioritize, right? You prioritize the study. You get back to law school, make the adjustments. I'm sure going to your people and saying, hey, what do you need from me? How do I do it better? How do I go through that? Right. You decide, hey, listen, I'm probably not going to be the next Al Michaels. So you shut the show, and some of that may be decision for you, but no time.
Yeah. It was, and asking for help. Really. That was, instead of trying to do it alone, asking.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. All right. Well, first of all, it's a lot of time, man. Thanks for all the time today. This has been great. I'm sorry for the technical, glitch there, but thank you so much, Steve. This has been awesome. I know our listeners will see the value in the episode today. I just enjoyed learning about all the pivots you're making. And I think there's a lesson in there for people under crisis. The one I really grabbed onto was your ability to give your team autonomy and say, hey, listen, I trust in you. I'm giving you freedom. Tell me what you're doing, give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay too. Let us know. We'll monitor it. Right. Which I think
at the end of the day, we were losing money hand over fist. So what's a little more or a little less going to matter?
Yeah. Right. And but I don't think that's everybody's mentality. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really talking about. We're really talking about winners find a way. And there's a mentality saying, I'm okay losing for a little bit, we do this in baseball, right? Hey, we're 20-30. I'm okay with losing the next 10 days to figure out the rest of the season, right? Because that's only getting us to, I have 100 games left to get it right. And if we can win 75 of those last 100 games, we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to be fine, right? But I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit right now to get this thing on the right path. And it takes some trust. It takes some ability to look into your people's eyes and know that they believe and want what you want. And I think it's pretty awesome. It's time now for the best way to win. Is there something that we haven't shared today with listeners that we did not touch on, that maybe hey, when you're down and then you're facing this, what's part of the secret sauce or a foundational thing at the Gibson Group that's helped you weather through, hey, 3-4 major things in the last 20 years that have kept you on the way?
So one of the other things we learned is our brand is probably more meaningful and has more value than we would have attributed to it. And some of that is just, kind of that self-image. I can't believe, whether it's my father saying this or me, that, he created this brand that has national, international, exposure. Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. Or I hope everybody loves it. Not everybody, but a lot of people love it. And so, and how he created that, and how did he do that? And there was some luck along the way, but it came down to that every customer must leave happy, and never once letting something go. Somebody has a bad experience. I mean, we have people call the corporate office, and they'll call and they'll complain, and they'll jump over the restaurant and the manager's there, and I call them.
Yeah.
I hear them out. And I talk to them, and they get a call from one of the owners of the company, that's meaningful to them, right? They've already, whether it's angry, pissed, sad, whatever it is, that they've already decided to call, to hear us, to air their grievances, we need to hear them. I mean, we also think that's the other thing is we love customers who complain. Think about that, and ultimately, do I love doing that? No, I don't. But it's so much part of ingrained in who we are that is we love customers who complain, because guess what? They tell us what we're doing wrong.
Yep.
And you get to fix it, right?
Yeah.
The worst thing we say in our business, the worst thing is the customer who has a bad experience and disappears and never comes back again, doesn't say a word.
That's right.
We love customers.
Yeah. And I think that's a paradigm shift for people out there that they got to understand. Like, negative feedback is not all bad. Like, we have to learn how we get better, and they're going to tell you. We get that from sports, right? You know, because we both have a baseball background. I mean, we love the fact, like, hey, if you're sitting there telling me I'm collapsing on my back leg and my elbows, coming down, and I'm hitting balls up in the air and popping up, pop up. Like, I want that feedback.
You were watching my son today, by the way.
No. We've had that conversation. He's never going to do that. So I mean,
a triple, by the way.
That's a great lesson.
Just destroyed a ball today. Yes. So
nice. So, and an early morning game at that. So, all right. So get real quick. Tell them where they can find you, Steve, again.
All right. I'll give you my email address, which is just steve3@grgmc.com. Steve, the number 3 at grgmc.com.
And Stephen Lombardo, Stephen, Stephen Lombardo. He is on LinkedIn. Check out his profile there. Chairman of the Gibson Group. It is incredible what this team has done over there. It's amazing. Follow our show on the YouTube Live and many more voice videos on Leadershipity channel. We are at Leadershipity on Instagram and Twitter, Trent M. Clark. You can find us on all the social medias there. We have lots of other things on our Leadershipity channel that we welcome you to. Please, if you love this show, give us 5 stars, subscribe to our channel. We'd love that. And then, of course, look for our upcoming book, The Pyramid of Leadershipity. DM or email me if you're looking for help in the coaching and leadership development and team development. We do a lot of it. And if you enjoyed today's episode, come back, please. Last thing, Steve. Tough times, we have things we read, and I know you're well read. I mean, a lawyer, you're constantly reading. And then you hate when I ask you to read stuff. So when you got it, what's your go-to? What is something you go to and a place you're always going to want to go back to?
In terms of books or what?
For when you're down, something like a quote, a verse, something that you may go to that says, hey, like, this rights my ship pretty quick.
Oh boy. Now I know I gave you a bunch and I've forgotten them all.
Yeah, you got some good ones.
No, I'll tell you a story. I don't know if it's a quote, but it's a story. I mean, I did get into a fight as a kid. I got my ass kicked. Came home, bloodied and everything, and it was in a pickup basketball, baseball, like game like that. And my father just said, "Okay, you got 2 options. You can stay home and cry." Or you can clean yourself up and get back out there. Pick yourself up. That's it. And, you get bloodied. It happens. Like, it's how you react to it. And that's the same lesson that I preach to my kids when they have something bad happen to them, which is, okay, something bad did happen. How are you going to react to it? Are you going to be defined by external forces, or are you going to be defined by yourself? That's, you've got the people who are out there who are victims of everything, and you've got people who are champions, winners.
I really like, that's right. Winners find a way to win. I love the E plus R equals O, right? There's an event, and then your part is the reaction. How will I react to that event to conclude the outcome? Because there's going to be an outcome. The event happened, then there's going to be a reaction, and then there's going to be an outcome. Well, if I react poorly, the outcome typically is poor, right? If I react well, hey, I get a better outcome, right? So it is on us in that. I love that. I love that from a couple guys over in Ohio, actually, who came up with that. But for me, thinking about our conversation this week, we spend a lot of time together. We've known each other a while. I like to think about a verse that I always think, or a quote. And, knowing what you've been through over this time, I went right to, I stumbled across this reading the Bible, Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I thought, man, like, when this whole thing goes, they are looking to the leader to go, hey, what's our vision? And you're instantly going in, hey, leadership meets. We're going to PPP. This is what we're doing for you. This is how we're going to, and you're creating vision of how we'll get through it, and how we'll get the best knowledge we can to get it, and very quickly formulating a vision of how it can work. But minus that vision, when people are not communicated that and given how it might be for us and what's going to happen, first our imagination runs wild, which is never good for us, right? And next is,
by the way, on that note, we all know people who assume the worst. Some people assume the best, but they see what's going on. If you're not telling them why you're doing what you're doing, they fill in the gaps. And some people give you the benefit of the doubt, and plenty of others don't.
That's right. That's right. And I think, that can run away on us, right? That can really run away on, this isn't good for me anymore. This isn't where I should be. And so I love that. I think creating that vision, I think you've done that always so well. I mean, even from you're having this flagship, and I think back to, a few years back when you decided, like, hey, we're going to go to Disney and do the boathouse. I remember when you guys decided, like, this is there was a stretch. There's a risk in the brand protection and quality. It's not next door, which I say, a lot of your restaurants are within, 15-mile radius, right?
Yep.
And so now all of a sudden it's like, hey, can we do our team? There's a big bunch of challenges in doing this well. And that restaurant is number 2 in the country now. So, it sounds like it worked out okay, but not without risk, right?
There's always risk.
That's right.
I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yep.
No risk, no reward. That's, you want to minimize risk, but if there was no risk, there is no reward. Pure and simple.
Pure and simple. We're going to end on that, man. That's awesome. Yeah. Pure and simple. Thank you for everybody coming. Thank you for joining us on Winners Find a Way. Thank you to Steve Lombardo. Can't wait to see everybody next time on next Friday when I welcome, let's see here. It is the 16th is going to be, I believe, Ann Gaffigan joins us next Friday. A fabulous track and field athlete, has a great story of the Olympic trials and her experience in the steeplechase. And one time, I think the U.S. best steeplechaser at one point. So I'm pretty excited to talk to Ann and her leadership and what she's doing. She's in the tech space now, a woman in leadership in tech, and it's awesome. So can't wait to welcome Ann next Friday, every Friday. Winners Find a Way show, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Join us, Leadershipity YouTube channel. Thanks again, Steve.
Hey, thank you. Always great seeing you and talking to you.
Perfect.
All right.